For decades, General Motors built its reputation on powerful gasoline engines, iconic American trucks, and some of the best-selling vehicles in automotive history. But the auto industry is changing faster than at any point since the invention of the assembly line, and Mary Barra believes standing still is the biggest risk of all. After years of gradually expanding its electric vehicle ambitions, the GM CEO has now made what many analysts consider the company's biggest EV commitment yet. Rather than treating electric vehicles as one division among many, Barra is transforming General Motors into a company whose future depends on electrification, advanced software, and next-generation battery technology. It's a strategy that stretches far beyond simply launching new EV models. It involves redesigning factories, retraining workers, investing billions in battery production, expanding charging partnerships, and preparing the company for a market that could look completely different within the next decade. This latest commitment comes at a time when many expected the opposite. Throughout the past year, headlines have focused on slowing EV sales growth in several markets, concerns about charging infrastructure, and consumers becoming more cautious because of higher interest rates and vehicle prices. Several automakers have delayed electric vehicle launches or adjusted production targets as they responded to changing demand. Investors began questioning whether the industry had moved too aggressively toward electrification. Yet instead of pulling back, Mary Barra has chosen to reinforce GM's long-term strategy. Her message has remained remarkably consistent. Short-term market fluctuations do not change the long-term direction of the automotive industry. According to Barra, the transition to electric transportation may not happen in a perfectly straight line, but it is still moving forward, and companies that continue investing during uncertain periods could emerge with a significant competitive advantage when demand accelerates again. That confidence is backed by an enormous financial commitment. Over the past several years, GM has announced tens of billions of dollars in investments aimed at accelerating its electric future. Those investments cover nearly every part of the business, from dedicated battery manufacturing plants and vehicle assembly facilities to research into advanced battery chemistry and software platforms. Instead of relying entirely on outside suppliers, GM is building much of its future around greater control of its own technology and production capabilities. The company believes this approach will reduce costs over time while allowing faster innovation as battery technology continues evolving. Rather than simply purchasing components from third parties, GM wants to become deeply involved in developing the technologies that will define the next generation of automobiles. A major reason this strategy matters is that the automotive industry is no longer competing solely on horsepower or styling. Electric vehicles have shifted the competitive battlefield toward batteries, software, computing power, manufacturing efficiency, and customer experience. Success now depends on how efficiently companies can produce batteries, how intelligently vehicles manage energy, how quickly software can be updated, and how effectively digital services improve ownership over time. Mary Barra has repeatedly emphasized that tomorrow's vehicles will function much more like connected technology products than traditional automobiles. Features can be added through over-the-air updates, performance can improve through software optimization, and new services can generate revenue long after the vehicle leaves the dealership. That represents one of the biggest transformations the industry has ever experienced, and GM wants to be positioned at the center of it rather than struggling to catch up later. The scale of GM's transformation becomes even more impressive when considering the complexity of such a transition. General Motors operates dozens of manufacturing facilities, employs tens of thousands of workers, and manages one of the world's largest automotive supply chains. Changing a company of this size is far more difficult than launching a startup. Every new electric vehicle platform requires redesigning production lines, developing supplier relationships, training engineers, upgrading factories, and coordinating thousands of individual components. Barra's strategy recognizes that this transition cannot happen overnight. Instead, GM is gradually creating manufacturing systems capable of producing both electric and internal combustion vehicles depending on market demand. This flexibility allows the company to respond more effectively if consumer preferences change, while continuing to build toward its long-term electric vision. Perhaps the boldest aspect of Barra's latest move is the willingness to invest despite uncertainty. Predicting the exact pace of EV adoption has become increasingly difficult. Consumer demand varies by region, charging infrastructure continues expanding at different speeds, governments regularly adjust incentive programs, and battery material prices remain volatile. Any one of these factors could influence short-term sales. Many executives might choose to wait for greater certainty before committing additional resources. Barra has taken the opposite approach. She argues that waiting could ultimately prove more expensive than investing now because companies that hesitate risk falling behind competitors that continue improving technology, lowering costs, and expanding production capabilities during slower market periods. This philosophy also reflects GM's desire to compete with far more than traditional rivals. While Ford, Toyota, Hyundai, Volkswagen, and Stellantis remain major competitors, General Motors is also battling companies that barely existed a decade ago. Tesla fundamentally changed customer expectations around electric vehicles, software updates, charging convenience, and direct-to-consumer technology experiences. Chinese manufacturers have demonstrated how rapidly new companies can scale EV production while aggressively reducing costs. Meanwhile, technology companies continue exploring automotive software, artificial intelligence, autonomous driving, and connected services. The boundaries separating automotive manufacturing from technology companies are becoming increasingly blurred. Mary Barra understands that future competition will involve much more than building reliable vehicles. It will involve creating an entire technology ecosystem around transportation. All of these developments explain why many industry observers view this as General Motors' biggest EV bet yet. It isn't defined by a single product announcement or one new factory. Instead, it's a comprehensive strategy that touches every corner of the company. Manufacturing, engineering, software development, battery technology, digital services, charging infrastructure, and customer experience are all being reshaped around a future where electric mobility plays a central role. Whether the transition unfolds quickly or gradually, Barra is making one thing unmistakably clear: General Motors intends to remain one of the world's leading automakers by embracing change rather than resisting it. If this vision succeeds, the company won't simply sell electric vehicles, it could redefine what General Motors represents in the 21st century. One of the biggest reasons Mary Barra's latest electric vehicle strategy is attracting so much attention is because it focuses on the single most important component of every EV: the battery. While consumers often notice exterior styling, horsepower, or driving range, automakers know that battery technology ultimately determines whether an electric vehicle can be profitable. Batteries remain the most expensive part of an EV, influencing everything from manufacturing costs and vehicle pricing to charging speed and driving range. Mary Barra has repeatedly emphasized that lowering battery costs while improving performance is essential if electric vehicles are going to compete with gasoline-powered models on price. That's why General Motors has spent years investing not only in battery research, but also in building large-scale manufacturing facilities capable of producing battery cells in the United States. Instead of depending almost entirely on overseas suppliers, GM wants greater control over one of the most valuable parts of its future business. This strategy represents a dramatic shift from how automakers traditionally operated. For decades, manufacturers sourced engines, transmissions, electronics, and thousands of other components from specialized suppliers while focusing primarily on vehicle assembly and design. The EV era has changed that equation. Companies now recognize that whoever controls battery technology gains a major competitive advantage. Batteries influence production costs, supply chain stability, technological innovation, and even national industrial policy. By investing alongside battery partners in large manufacturing plants, GM hopes to secure a reliable supply of cells while reducing transportation costs and minimizing exposure to global supply disruptions. Producing batteries closer to vehicle assembly plants also simplifies logistics, shortens delivery times, and provides greater flexibility as new battery technologies emerge. Mary Barra has often described batteries as the foundation upon which the next generation of General Motors vehicles will be built. Every improvement in battery chemistry creates opportunities for lighter vehicles, longer driving range, faster charging, improved durability, and lower ownership costs. Engineers continue experimenting with new materials and manufacturing techniques designed to make batteries both cheaper and more efficient. GM understands that consumers are unlikely to embrace electric vehicles in large numbers unless they deliver practical advantages without requiring significant compromises. If battery costs continue falling while energy density improves, automakers can either lower vehicle prices or include larger battery packs without dramatically increasing costs. Both outcomes make electric vehicles more attractive to mainstream buyers who compare them directly with traditional gasoline-powered models. Beyond batteries themselves, General Motors is investing heavily in flexible manufacturing systems that can adapt as consumer demand evolves. Building an automobile factory is one of the largest industrial investments any company can make, and those facilities often operate for decades. Rather than constructing factories dedicated exclusively to one type of vehicle, GM has increasingly focused on creating production lines capable of adjusting to changing market conditions. Some facilities can build both electric and internal combustion vehicles, depending on demand, reducing the risk of underutilized factories if consumer preferences shift unexpectedly. This flexibility gives GM a significant operational advantage during a period when predicting future demand remains difficult. Instead of making irreversible decisions based on short-term market trends, the company is positioning itself to respond quickly as conditions change. Another major pillar of Barra's strategy extends well beyond hardware. Modern vehicles are becoming sophisticated software platforms containing millions of lines of code that manage everything from battery temperature and regenerative braking to navigation, entertainment, safety systems, and wireless updates. 20 years ago, software played a relatively limited role inside most automobiles. Today, it determines much of the driving experience. Electric vehicles rely on software to optimize battery performance, maximize driving range, monitor charging efficiency, diagnose maintenance issues, and continuously improve vehicle performance after customers take delivery. This means software has become just as strategically important as mechanical engineering. Barra believes this transformation opens entirely new business opportunities for General Motors. Instead of generating revenue only when a vehicle is sold, the company increasingly sees software as a long-term relationship with customers. Over-the-air updates allow new features to be added months or even years after purchase without requiring dealership visits. Advanced navigation services, connected vehicle features, fleet management tools, enhanced driver assistance capabilities, and premium digital experiences can all become ongoing revenue streams throughout the life of the vehicle. In other words, the value of a car no longer ends when it leaves the showroom. Software enables manufacturers to continue improving vehicles while creating opportunities for recurring income that simply did not exist during the traditional automotive era. This approach also changes how customers think about vehicle ownership. Rather than purchasing a car with fixed capabilities that remain unchanged for years, drivers increasingly expect continuous improvements similar to smartphones and computers. Navigation systems receive updated maps, charging algorithms become more efficient, infotainment systems gain new applications, and safety technologies improve through software refinements. These updates can enhance convenience, improve reliability, and sometimes even increase driving range through better energy management. For consumers, that means their vehicle may actually become more capable over time instead of gradually feeling outdated. Barra believes this evolving relationship between automakers and customers will become one of the defining characteristics of the future automotive industry. Artificial intelligence is expected to play an increasingly important role in this software-driven future as well. Advanced computing systems can analyze enormous amounts of vehicle data to improve battery health, predict maintenance needs before problems occur, optimize charging schedules, and support increasingly sophisticated driver assistance systems. As computing power continues advancing, vehicles will become better at understanding driver behavior, adapting to road conditions, and managing energy consumption more efficiently. General Motors has been steadily expanding investments in digital engineering because the company believes future competitive advantages will come not only from physical manufacturing, but also from intelligent software capable of improving every aspect of vehicle performance. At the same time, Barra recognizes that none of these technologies matter if customers cannot conveniently charge their vehicles. That's why GM has worked to expand charging access through partnerships with charging network providers, while also improving compatibility with widely available charging infrastructure. Public charging availability remains one of the biggest concerns for prospective EV buyers, particularly those who frequently travel long distances. By supporting broader charging access and integrating charging information directly into vehicle software, GM hopes to make the ownership experience significantly easier. Route planning that automatically identifies charging stations, estimates charging times, and monitors battery status during trips can reduce much of the uncertainty that still discourages some consumers from purchasing electric vehicles. Taken together, these investments reveal that Barra's latest EV bet is far more comprehensive than simply introducing another lineup of electric cars. General Motors is simultaneously building batteries, modernizing factories, expanding software capabilities, improving charging convenience, and developing digital services that could reshape how customers interact with their vehicles for years to come. Every piece supports the others. Better batteries improve vehicle performance. Flexible factories reduce manufacturing risk. Software enhances the ownership experience. Connected services create recurring revenue. Charging partnerships increase consumer confidence. Rather than treating these initiatives as separate projects, GM is integrating them into one long-term strategy designed to strengthen its competitive position throughout the coming decade. If Barra's vision succeeds, the company's greatest innovation may not be any single vehicle. It may be the ecosystem surrounding every vehicle that leaves a General Motors assembly line. As General Motors accelerates its electric vehicle transformation, Barra is facing a challenge that may be even more difficult than building advanced technology, convincing millions of everyday drivers that electric vehicles are practical enough to replace the gasoline cars and trucks they have trusted for decades. Early EV buyers were often technology enthusiasts willing to overlook limited charging infrastructure or premium pricing in exchange for cutting-edge innovation. But the next wave of customers is very different. These buyers are families, commuters, business owners, truck drivers, and long-distance travelers who expect an electric vehicle to fit seamlessly into their daily lives. They want affordable pricing, dependable charging, competitive driving range, low maintenance costs, and strong resale value. Barra understands that the future of General Motors depends on winning over this much larger group of consumers rather than relying solely on early adopters. That realization has shaped GM's product strategy. Instead of concentrating exclusively on luxury electric vehicles, the company has expanded its EV portfolio across several of its best-known brands. Chevrolet is targeting mainstream buyers with practical and relatively affordable models designed for everyday transportation. GMC is bringing electrification to premium pickups and SUVs, proving that electric power can coexist with capability and utility. Cadillac is repositioning itself as a high-end luxury EV brand featuring advanced technology, sophisticated interiors, and high-performance electric platforms. BrightDrop has focused on commercial delivery vehicles, addressing the rapidly growing demand for electric fleet transportation. By spreading its investments across multiple vehicle categories, General Motors hopes to attract customers with different lifestyles, budgets, and priorities while reducing dependence on any single market segment. One of the key advantages behind this approach is the use of shared vehicle platforms and common engineering architecture. In the past, automakers often designed each vehicle independently, resulting in higher development costs and longer production timelines. Today, GM is increasingly relying on common platforms that can support multiple vehicle sizes and body styles while sharing batteries, motors, electronic systems, and software. This strategy significantly reduces manufacturing complexity. Engineers can improve one core technology and apply those improvements across several models instead of redesigning everything from scratch. It also allows factories to produce different vehicles using many of the same components, improving efficiency and helping lower production costs over time. For consumers, this means faster product development, more consistent quality, and potentially lower prices as manufacturing scales up. Lower production costs remain one of the biggest goals in Barra's long-term strategy. While electric vehicle prices have gradually become more competitive, affordability continues to influence purchasing decisions. Many consumers still compare the price of an EV directly with a gasoline-powered vehicle and wonder whether the long-term savings justify the higher initial investment. GM believes that larger production volumes, improved manufacturing efficiency, and advances in battery technology will gradually narrow this price gap. As battery costs continue declining and factories become more efficient, the company expects electric vehicles to become accessible to a much broader audience. Reaching that point is essential because mainstream adoption cannot occur if electric vehicles remain financially out of reach for average households. Consumer confidence extends far beyond pricing. Reliability has always been one of the strongest selling points for established automakers, and GM understands that maintaining customer trust is critical during this transition. Buyers expect electric vehicles to perform consistently in different climates, maintain battery health over many years, and provide dependable service without unexpected maintenance challenges. To address these concerns, General Motors has invested heavily in testing battery systems under extreme temperatures, improving thermal management technologies, and refining software that protects long-term battery performance. The company knows that even isolated reliability issues could influence public perception during a period when many consumers are still deciding whether to make the switch to electric transportation. While GM continues refining its own technology, the competitive landscape has become more intense than ever before. Tesla remains the company most closely associated with modern electric vehicles, having transformed public expectations regarding software updates, charging networks, acceleration, and direct customer engagement. Years ago, many established automakers underestimated how quickly Tesla could reshape the industry. Today, virtually every major manufacturer is responding. Ford continues expanding its electric truck and SUV lineup. Hyundai and Kia have earned praise for innovative EV platforms and fast charging capabilities. European manufacturers are investing billions into electrification across multiple brands. At the same time, Chinese automakers are introducing increasingly sophisticated electric vehicles at highly competitive prices, creating pressure not only in Asia, but also in Europe, Latin America, and other international markets. Chinese manufacturers represent one of the most significant emerging competitive forces. Companies that were relatively unknown outside China just a few years ago are now producing millions of electric vehicles annually while benefiting from extensive domestic manufacturing experience and highly developed battery supply chains. Many of these companies have demonstrated an ability to introduce new models rapidly while maintaining aggressive pricing strategies. As they expand internationally, traditional automakers face growing pressure to innovate more quickly while keeping production costs under control. Barra has acknowledged that competition is no longer limited to familiar Detroit rivals. General Motors now competes in a truly global marketplace where technological leadership can shift rapidly and new challengers can emerge with remarkable speed. Despite these competitive pressures, Barra has consistently argued that short-term market slowdowns should not distract from long-term objectives. Electric vehicle sales growth has fluctuated in response to economic conditions, changing consumer confidence, higher borrowing costs, and evolving government incentives. Some manufacturers have responded by delaying investments or reducing production targets. GM, however, has largely maintained its broader strategic direction. Barra believes temporary fluctuations are a normal part of any major technological transition. Similar patterns occurred during the early adoption of personal computers, smartphones, and the internet. Initial growth often comes in waves rather than a perfectly smooth upward trend. Companies that continue investing during periods of uncertainty may ultimately gain an advantage when broader adoption accelerates again. Another factor strengthening GM's position is its experience managing large-scale manufacturing operations. Unlike many younger EV companies still learning how to build vehicles efficiently at high volume, General Motors has spent more than a century refining global production systems, supplier relationships, quality control processes, and distribution networks. While transitioning these capabilities to electric vehicles requires substantial investment, the company enters this new era with decades of industrial expertise. Barra believes combining traditional manufacturing strengths with modern battery technology and software innovation gives GM an opportunity to compete effectively against both established automakers and newer technology-focused companies. Ultimately, Barra's strategy reflects a belief that success in the electric vehicle era will not belong solely to the company with the fastest car or the largest battery. Instead, victory will likely depend on offering a complete package that balances affordability, reliability, technology, manufacturing efficiency, charging convenience, and customer trust. General Motors is attempting to position itself across all of those areas simultaneously. The company is not simply trying to survive the industry's transition toward electrification, it is attempting to lead it. Whether that ambition is fully realized remains uncertain, but one thing is becoming increasingly clear. GM's future will be shaped not by cautious incremental changes, but by bold long-term investments designed to compete in one of the most transformative periods in automotive history. As ambitious as General Motors' electric vehicle plans may seem, Barra's vision extends far beyond replacing gasoline engines with battery packs. She believes the future automobile will become a connected digital platform capable of continuously improving through software, communicating with surrounding infrastructure, integrating artificial intelligence, and providing services that go far beyond transportation. In many ways, GM is attempting to redefine what it means to own a vehicle. Instead of thinking of a car as a product that changes very little after leaving the dealership, Barra envisions vehicles that receive regular software updates, introduce new digital features over time, improve energy efficiency, and remain connected to an expanding ecosystem of services. This philosophy represents one of the most dramatic shifts in the company's more than century-long history. The success of General Motors will increasingly depend not only on the quality of its vehicles, but also on the digital experiences surrounding them. Software has become the foundation of that transformation. Modern electric vehicles already rely on advanced computing systems to manage battery performance, regulate charging, monitor safety systems, optimize energy consumption, and control dozens of other functions simultaneously. But Barra believes this is only the beginning. Future GM vehicles are expected to feature even more sophisticated software capable of delivering over-the-air improvements without requiring owners to visit dealerships. Performance enhancements, infotainment upgrades, navigation improvements, battery optimization, security updates, and entirely new digital capabilities could all be delivered remotely. This allows vehicles to evolve throughout their lifespan instead of gradually becoming outdated. For customers, that means their investment may continue improving years after purchase. For General Motors, it creates an ongoing relationship with owners rather than a single transaction completed on the day of sale. Artificial intelligence is expected to play a growing role in this evolving ecosystem. As computing power becomes more capable, AI systems can analyze enormous amounts of driving data to improve efficiency, predict maintenance needs, optimize charging behavior, and personalize the driving experience. Imagine a vehicle that learns a driver's daily routine, automatically recommends the most efficient charging schedule, adjusts climate settings based on weather forecasts, and warns about potential mechanical issues before they become expensive repairs. These capabilities transform the vehicle from a passive machine into an intelligent assistant that continuously adapts to its owner's habits. General Motors has been steadily increasing investments in digital engineering because the company believes software and artificial intelligence will become just as important as traditional mechanical innovation in determining long-term competitiveness. Another major pillar of Barra's strategy involves advanced driver assistance technology. While fully autonomous vehicles remain a long-term goal for much of the automotive industry, today's systems already demonstrate how rapidly vehicle intelligence is evolving. General Motors has invested heavily in technologies designed to reduce driver fatigue, improve highway driving, enhance safety, and provide greater convenience during everyday travel. These systems rely on cameras, sensors, radar, high-performance processors, and sophisticated software working together in real time. As artificial intelligence continues advancing, future versions could become even more capable, handling increasingly complex driving situations while assisting drivers rather than replacing them outright. Barra views these technologies as an important step towards safer and more intelligent transportation, even if widespread fully autonomous driving still requires additional technological and regulatory progress. Charging infrastructure represents another essential component of GM's long-term vision. Even the most advanced electric vehicle cannot succeed if customers struggle to recharge it conveniently. One of the biggest barriers to widespread EV adoption remains public confidence in charging availability, especially during long-distance travel. Mary Barra has repeatedly acknowledged that expanding charging access is critical for convincing hesitant buyers to switch from gasoline-powered vehicles. General Motors has therefore worked to strengthen partnerships with charging providers, improve navigation systems that locate available chargers, and simplify the overall charging experience. Future software could automatically plan routes based on battery level, recommend optimal charging stops, estimate charging times, and even prepare the battery for faster charging before arriving at a station. These seemingly small improvements collectively make electric vehicle ownership far more practical for everyday consumers. Barra's strategy also recognizes that electrification is about more than passenger cars. Commercial transportation represents another enormous opportunity. Delivery companies, logistics providers, municipalities, and business fleets increasingly seek lower operating costs and reduced emissions. Electric commercial vehicles offer significant advantages because they often operate on predictable daily routes where charging schedules can be carefully managed. General Motors has invested in commercial EV solutions that address this growing market, demonstrating that the company's electric ambitions extend well beyond consumer vehicles. Fleet customers often purchase vehicles in large volumes, creating opportunities for stable long-term business relationships while accelerating overall EV adoption across multiple industries. Manufacturing remains equally important in this transformation. Converting one of the world's largest automakers into a technology-driven mobility company requires far more than developing innovative products. It demands enormous investments in factory modernization, workforce training, supply chain development, and production flexibility. GM has spent years upgrading facilities capable of building advanced battery packs, electric drive systems, and software-integrated vehicles while preparing employees for new manufacturing processes. Unlike newer companies building factories from the ground up, General Motors must carefully transform existing operations without disrupting ongoing vehicle production. This balancing act requires careful planning, significant capital investment, and long-term commitment from company leadership. Barra has consistently argued that preparing manufacturing today is essential for remaining competitive tomorrow. Of course, enormous challenges still remain. The pace of electric vehicle adoption continues to depend on several factors outside General Motors' direct control. Economic conditions influence consumer purchasing decisions. Battery raw material prices can fluctuate dramatically. Government incentives and environmental regulations evolve over time. Charging infrastructure expands at different speeds depending on region. International competition continues intensifying, particularly from manufacturers introducing increasingly affordable electric vehicles. Every one of these factors could influence how quickly the industry transitions toward widespread electrification. Mary Barra has never suggested that the road ahead will be simple. Instead, her strategy reflects the belief that uncertainty is not a reason to stop investing. It is a reason to prepare even more aggressively for multiple possible futures. Perhaps the defining characteristic of Barra's leadership has been her willingness to think beyond quarterly sales figures. While financial performance remains critically important, many of GM's largest investments are designed to deliver benefits over the next decade rather than the next few months. Building battery plants, modernizing factories, developing software ecosystems, expanding digital services, and strengthening charging infrastructure require patience before producing meaningful returns. Investors may focus on short-term earnings, but transforming an industrial giant like General Motors requires decisions measured in years rather than quarters. Barra appears willing to accept temporary criticism if it helps position the company for long-term success in a rapidly evolving industry. Whether this historic gamble ultimately succeeds will depend on execution. Building advanced technology is one challenge. Producing it profitably at massive scale is another. General Motors must continue lowering battery costs, improving software reliability, expanding manufacturing efficiency, and earning consumer trust while competing against both established rivals and ambitious new entrants. Any weakness in these areas could slow progress, yet if the company successfully delivers on its vision, the rewards could be enormous. GM would not simply remain one of the world's largest automakers. It could become one of the defining technology-driven transportation companies of the 21st century. Looking back years from now, historians may view this period as the moment when General Motors fundamentally reinvented itself. Previous generations associated the company with legendary V8 engines, iconic muscle cars, and full-size American pickups that dominated highways for decades. The next generation may instead remember GM as a leader in battery technology, connected software, intelligent mobility, and digital transportation services. That transformation will not happen overnight, and it is far from guaranteed. But one conclusion is already difficult to dispute. Mary Barra has made the biggest electric vehicle bet in General Motors' modern history, committing the company's future to technologies that are still evolving but increasingly shaping the global automotive industry. Whether critics agree with every decision or not, the scale of this commitment ensures that its outcome will influence not only General Motors, but also the direction of the automotive world for many years to come.